Hello and welcome to today's video, which is part of my series on writing an essay. And today we're going to be looking at adding in our essays. So the first thing we need to think about is, what is our evidence for? And really it's there to support your ideas. That's its primary function. If you're making an argument, you're trying to convince someone of your line of thinking, you need strong evidence from the text in there in order to substantiate what you're saying. Then we analyse and we unpick the ideas from the text. So what makes a good piece of evidence? Well, first of all, it's judiciously chosen. So that means that your quotations or your references, your examples from the text are as well chosen as they could be. They fit the context of your essay perfectly, and also they're really specific as well. So if you're quoting from the text, you're hopefully getting your quotations right, or if you're giving an example or a symbol from the text, you're able to locate that in the text. So say, it's from the middle, it's from the end, it's from chapter 7, whatever, it's from stanza 4, so we're able to specify within the text as well. Then we need to make sure our evidence is fluently embedded in the sentence or in the argument, and that's what we're going to look at in the examples in a minute. If you're going to analyse your evidence, so I would recommend you pick a key symbol or an image. So for example, if you're looking at the kite runner, you might pick the kite as a symbol to talk about. The same if you're doing Mother Any Distance in the GCSE poetry. Or if you're looking at symbols in Othello, you might pick the ocean or the water as a key symbol. Or if you're going to analyse a full quotation, I'd suggest that that's about 10 words long, because that'll give you plenty to say when you actually dig into that. If you're just using it as support, so there's no analysis required, and you're just using it to illustrate a point, or perhaps you're linking different parts of the text together, you're reflecting on a motif, or you're looking at how a writer uses the same idea across different poems, I would recommend using a micro quotation at that point, so maybe 2 to 5 words. And again, we'll look at an example in. So here we go, looking at the left-hand side of the screen first. I've got some examples here from some texts that I teach at A-level. So the first one's from the Kite Runner. Don't worry, if you haven't studied these texts, it will still make sense to you. So our first one is on the novel's opening page. Emir reflects on how the past claws its way out. So notice there when I'm embedding my quotation, I'm not using those really kind of clunky phrases like a quotation to show this is, or we see this in the line, or anything like that, but I'm using my quotation to finish off a little bit of the story. Second example is from the poetry of Tony Harrison. So it says, as Harrison depicts the conflict between child and teacher, he reflects on how the educator shut my trap, thus silencing his student. This is a really good way to embed a quotation, and it's starting with the word as. So as Shakespeare shows this, as Priestley demonstrates this, as I don't know, another name of another writer, as Bronte is reflecting on this. So if you're stuck with embedding your quote, think about starting with as plus the author's name, and then as they show, as they depict, as they reveal, as they expose, whatever your analytical verb is going to be. Look at how I've told a little snippet of the story, a little snippet of my argument, and then I've used the quotation as part of that, so we get that nice flow, that fluency in the writing. Third example then is from Othello by Shakespeare. So Shakespeare reflects on the tragic hero's descent into irrationality, and then this time I've used a colon. So I've got my idea focusing on the author, and then my colon, and then my quotation is an example of what that argument is. So my blood begins my safer guides to rule. So in the middle of the screen, we've got my thinking column. So I'm choosing a quotation really well, one that's relevant. I'm thinking about how much the quotation I need. So I don't want to waste loads of time copying out a large chunk of text, especially if I'm in an exam situation. So I'm zooming in on the section of the quote that I want. As I said, you might want to focus in on a particular symbol or an image. So the second example there about Tony Harrison reveals that this idea of silencing, of shutting somebody's mouth, is a key image that you could say a lot about without needing a huge chunk of the text there. Or if you look at the Shakespeare example, I think I've got about 8 or 9 words in there. Slightly longer quotation because I'm going to really unpick that and analyse it. I'm going to want the sentence to flow naturally. So as I said, if you're stuck, start the sentence with as X does Y. So as Shakespeare reveals this, or as Harrison reveals that. And of course, remember your quotation marks. That seems like a silly thing to say, but so many students forget those small details. So make sure you've got your quotation marks in there as well. Okay, it's over to you now, so I suggest you pause the video and have a little practice. I've put some suggested quotations on the side that you could practice embedding into a sentence. So we're just focusing on the evidence sentence, so on our quotation sentences. If you do other text and think about what your key quotations are for those texts, and just pause the video and spend about 10-15 minutes practicing maybe 3, 4, 5 different quotations and embedding them into a sentence, and then start the video again because I've got one more thing to tell you. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully that practice was useful for you. So I just wanted to show you what this looks like when we put it together into a whole essay. And this is an extract from an essay that I wrote for my class about Tony Harrison. Don't worry if you're not studying Harrison, it will still make sense to you. So at the start of my paragraph, I've got my point sentence, my topic sentence, whatever you want to call it. And I'm saying central to Harrison's poetry is the idea of building the courage to speak and protest against the injustices wrought by the social class system, which are embedded in and reinforced by institutions such as education. So that's my key idea that's driving this paragraph. And then I'm zooming in on the poem, which I'm going to use as an example of this. So the first section of Them and Us, that's the title of the poem. The first section of Them and Us provides a vignette of a child's courage being destroyed by his education and his continual marginalisation within the grammar school due to his working class upbringing and his resulting accent. Now we're getting the quotations in here. So berating the child for his pronunciation of Keats, the teacher labels him a barbarian. And look there, I've got a little micro quotation, and then after that I've put a tiny little bit of analysis in brackets because I couldn't resist it, with its connotations of being uncivilized and violent. So micro quote, tiny bit of analysis, and I don't want to dwell too long over this word because I want to get to my key image that I'm going to say an awful lot about, which is the drunken porter in Macbeth, which is coming up on the following line. So I've got a micro quotation, and then I've got a longer quotation with a key image of there that I'm really going to delve into. So that's what it looks like in an essay. It's been quite a short video today, but hopefully you find it useful. And there will be more videos coming up where I will look at what we can do with this evidence, how we can analyse it and delve into it in a lot more depth.